Hey, welcome to Mooney Reads. My name is Beck, and today I'm going to be showing you around my bookshelves and doing a little bit of unhauling. I haven't really done a proper bookshelf tour since I've moved, so I kind of thought about doing that, but I also really do need to unhaul some things. If you saw my previous bookshelf tour, you'll know that I talked about having some things that I should probably go ahead and unhaul. I didn't do that then, so I'm gonna do a little bit more now. Before I get to the part where I'm actually showing you my books and deciding what to get rid of, I do want to tell you about a few that I already have decided to unhaul. Last time I was reorganizing my bookshelf, I just went ahead and pulled out a few. First, I have a couple of books that I'm probably just not going to read. The first one of those is the First and the Left Behind series. I'm pretty sure I read this forever ago, but I don't foresee myself finishing the series or anything like that, so I'm just gonna get rid of it. Honestly, I don't remember a whole lot about it. And then next I have Falling Star by Patricia Moyes. This is a mystery novel that I just got like randomly at a thrift store. It was probably like a couple of dollars or something and sounded relatively interesting. But I also bought this when I wasn't really sure about what kind of books I wanted to read. So I was like looking more at thrillers and mystery and stuff like that to just feel stuff out. I never ended up reading this, and I probably won't. I don't really have any desire to. The other books that I'm getting rid of have to do with various problematic elements that are each a little bit different. First we have Sybil by Flora Retta Schreiber. This is a nonfiction based off of a true story that's not really based off of a true story. So I've housed it in fiction. It is supposedly about this woman who had dissociative identity disorder, what used to be known as multiple personality disorder. And she had all of these different personalities, and they basically wrote, the psychologist that treated her wrote a book about these different personalities and about her story. There are several problems with that. First of all, the author is her psychologist, I'm pretty sure, which that's kind of messed up on several levels. But also her story isn't really true. From my understanding, the psychologist in question kind of asked a lot of different loaded questions to this person and kind of made her answer in specific ways. On top of that, this woman definitely did have some mental illnesses, but they were not DID. And she ended up fabricating a whole lot of different things. And so even if the stuff that this novel was based off of was actually the stuff that she told the psychologist, a lot of it was stuff that she made up, partly to make the psychologist feel better. So there's nothing true about this. I originally bought it before I knew anything about it. I just read the description probably like a decade ago. I don't know when I got this. And I've since learned about this, and I was still thinking about reading it anyways, just to see what it was and see what kind of, I guess, mess this woman put together. But I'm honestly not going to do that anytime soon. It's would be mildly interesting to know, but this is something that I would watch a documentary on when I had nothing better to do. It's not something that I would put this much time into. Then we get into some kind of problematic authors. First I have Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I honestly don't know when I got this book, or even if I got this book, because I found it at one of my apartments and it wasn't any of my roommates, so I guess somebody had left it there. I was mildly interested. I'm not really into a lot of adult fantasy, but I knew Brandon Sanderson's name. But he's apparently said some pretty homophobic stuff. Kind of backtracked on it, but not really. He backtracked on the bulk of it, but still is homophobic. From my understanding, I don't really care that much to look that much into it. I have no emotional attachment to Brandon Sanderson, and I probably wasn't really going to read this anyways. So then we have 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. I read this book way before it was going to be turned into a movie. And I read it, and I remember that I liked it when I read it the first time. I probably read this book in 2010. So I don't really remember much about it. You all probably know that there's now a Netflix series based off of this, and the way that it was filmed was really poorly. They didn't listen to how you should actually talk about suicide and stuff like that on screen. And hearing people talk about that make me think that I probably missed some things reading this. Well, I know that I missed some things reading that because I was not reading critically in 2010. I had considered, when I was in a proper enough mental state, which I was not when it first originally came out on Netflix, but I thought about maybe like watching it and then rereading the book. But first of all, I have so much other better things that I could be doing. I also just mentally probably shouldn't do that to myself. But also, Jay Asher has been accused of sexual assault. So I will not be condoning any of his works. I feel like this is something that came out several years ago, but I just didn't really think about it because I didn't think about the book at all. It just isn't a large part of my life. So when I was trying to find books to get rid of, this was one of the ones that I thought of. This last one is technically 3, and that is The Cuckoo's Calling, Robert Galbraith series. For those who don't know, Robert Galbraith is J.K. Rowling's pseudonym. First of all, I don't really read a lot of detective-y novels. It's just not necessarily my thing. So I'm not even sure if I would have gotten to these anyways. I mean, I haven't at this point. I got all of these as Christmas gifts at least 5 years ago, probably. But also, you all probably know about all of the mess that's going on with J.K. Rowling, with her not just saying transphobic things in passing, but deciding to write a whole fucking essay about it. So I'm pretty done with it. So those are the first things that I'm definitely unhauling. But I do want to go through and really clean a lot of stuff out. I am the biggest pack rat. I just like keeping stuff, but we'll see how it goes. Editing back here, this ended up being really long, so I'm actually putting this out in 2 different parts. In the first part, we're going to be going through my fiction collection. I'll show you how I have it set up, and you'll get to watch me kind of pick out different books to unhaul. The second part that's going to come out, I'm going to be talking about my nonfiction collection, and I'll be talking about the books that were maybes that I ended up keeping. Then you'll get to see all of my shelves reorganized at the very end. All right, so we're gonna start with this side of my living room. With these books. This is all of my fiction stuff. First up here we have my current reading book that I just finished reading, Reading Rush TBR, and then books on my regular TBR. This is a book that I borrowed from a friend that I may get into a little bit. We're doing a D&D thing that's Star Wars based, and I'd borrowed it to get inspiration from that, but I do have a lot of it kind of set up already. Well, I'm not sure if I'm going to end up reading it or not. You'll see post-it notes kind of all over the place. I have a really big problem with remembering that ebooks exist, so that's what the post-it notes are. Then we have graphic novels. These are all, this first bit, are all graphic novels that I've read, and I don't think I'm going to get rid of any of them because I really like all of them. There's no reason for me to get rid of any of them. The only one that I'm maybe a little bit indifferent about is Snoopy here, but like, it's still fun and I might still look at it. There's no real rush to, or reason to get rid of it. And we have these, which I read in high school, and honestly, I don't even have 1 and 2 of Bleach. And am I ever gonna reread Bleach? Like, no. So goodbye. And we have Princess Ai, which I might reread for nostalgia. So we'll keep her. We have unread graphic novels, which I'm definitely keeping. Shaw Silverstein, definitely keeping. We have more manga, which I have complicated feelings about Wandering Sun just because of some of the stuff that happened in the second volume. The volumes 2 and 3 aren't here because it's like $100 to purchase them. So I've read the second one online, and there was some really questionable stuff that, like, if they don't resolve it, I'm gonna be really upset, because this was so, like, the first volume was such a soft and good, like, slice of life thing about a trans girl and a trans boy. The anime's really cute, so hopefully it gets better, but I'm keeping them for the moment. We have children's books, and I think I'm gonna keep all of those. No reason to get rid of them. We have poetry that I have read. Excuse me, Tonks. Then we have kind of more that I've already read. Some David Levithan. These are all kind of stories, at least roughly. I'm honestly not super sure if I'm going to keep them or not. I'm definitely keeping the David Levithan because I like those. But we do have these, which I'm pretty sure I read this a while back, and I don't remember if I liked it or not. So we'll put this in like a maybe sort of pile. And then this I remember enjoying and thinking was interesting. This was also during a time where I read a lot of other like memoirs and stuff about drug use. But first of all, am I ever gonna reread this? Probably not. Am I, like, was this the best one of those that I read? No. I liked the memoirs better, and I'm not even sure if Ellen, like, I don't know, I don't think this is Own Voices, which obviously doesn't have to be Own Voices, and people aren't obligated to talk about whether or not they've actually gone through drug addiction and stuff like that, but I just really don't know if I'm interested. I'll put it in the maybe pile and think about it. Then we have poetry that I have not read yet, and I'm going to keep all of this because I haven't read it yet. We have plays that I have read, which is mostly Shakespeare, except for Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which is basically like Shakespeare fan fiction. Definitely keeping all of that. Keeping Dyer and Frank, which I have not read quite yet. Next, we're moving to the larger shelf here in the middle. Up top, we have some mythology and folklore books. Then we have fancy looking books, poetry, Sherlock Holmes. I do need to get rid of this because I have 2 copies of the complete Sherlock Holmes and the other one is much prettier. We have complete Shakespeare, some Doctor Who, some Narnia, special edition of Little Prince, signed Book Thief, and the 10th anniversary edition of Looking for Alaska. After that, we have some old books that look cool. Am I ever going to read them? Probably not, but I don't really want to get rid of them yet. Then next we have kind of sci-fi fantasy plus some other stuff over here. We've got stuff that I have not read yet. This is all sorted in order of priority. Now, there are some things that I'm not sure if I'm going to get to anytime soon. I do want to read The Princess Bride eventually. I Am Legend, honestly, I bought this because I wanted to read it because the movie held sentimental value. However, it was with an X, and I just don't think I'm gonna do that. So into the pile it goes. I actually put it in the wrong pile, but that's fine. But other than that, I do think the short stories are gonna be cool. Star Trek makes me really emotional because it makes me think of my granddad, who is a giant Trekkie. This was his too, so this kind of goes with that. I don't know when I'm gonna get to it. And then Willow, I do want to read eventually. After that, we have more paranormal stuff. The Host I have read, and I liked better than the Twilight series. And then we have a bunch that I haven't read. This is all vampire romance, and I don't think I've read a vampire romance since like 2011, maybe before. I wanted to read Dracula because it was kind of a classic. Same thing with like the Anne Rice novels. These are not vampires, but we have Haunting in America and the Amityville Horror. I honestly am not super big into horror, and I have to be in the right mindset to do ghosty books because it freaks me out. I used to be able to read them better or watch like stuff like this without freaking out, and I don't really know what changed. So I'm gonna think on these because I'm honestly not sure, like, am I gonna read a ghost book? I don't know. So we'll put them in the maybe stack. This I do kind of want to read. PC Cast Rode the House of Night series, which I probably would not recommend. But I do still want to see what her adult stuff is like, just for kicks and giggles if nothing else. Cathedral of Vampires, a thrift store find. Like, am I gonna read this? Probably not. We've got some, since this is near sci-fi fantasy, we have lots of Doctor Who knickknacks. I'm like 2 whole doctors behind, but I used to be super into it, so I have a lot of things. I didn't address small David Tennant, but there he is. And then this little gay guy. next we have a plethora of Stephen King. Now, I have only read Insomnia and Carrie, and I would probably keep both of them. They were pretty good. It's been a while since I've read them. Insomnia I read in like 8th grade the first time. But am I going to read all of these Stephen King books? Probably not. Some of these are technically my dad's. But the thing is, the ones that were his, I borrowed in high school and clearly did not take very good care of them. They were kind of not in perfect condition when I got them anyways. So I probably won't give them back to him. If anything, I would give him another copy, which he's probably already gotten at this point. So, what should I keep? What should I get rid of? Like, some of them, I know, like, am I gonna read Cell? There's, like, a thing with basically phones turning people into zombies. Oh, apparently I got to page 11 at some point. I don't even remember making this, but apparently I did. It's a bookmark. Now, with these remaining ones, I know I want to keep Insomnia because I remember really liking it. I kind of want to read it because it's one of the more popular ones and like my sister really liked it. Green Mile I'm interested in. The Shining I'm interested in. But what are these others? Salem's Lot I remember wanting to read, but that was when I was in the midst of lots of vampire-y things. So am I actually going to read all of these? I have no idea, but I at least have less than I did before. After that, we have Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which I've not read, but I might sometime. Nightlight is a parody of Twilight. I might as well keep it, if nothing but for nostalgia. So, there's that. We've got much more space. We love it. Also, I didn't address this knickknack. This is an embosser, which is super cool. But I don't really use the long form of my name anymore, so I kind of stopped using it. But you know, that's alright, because I had a lot of fun with this, and I kind of liked having my stuff set up like a library, and that's why my mom ended up getting this for me. So next we have several different categories here. This pile is basically unread thrillers. It's in priority of how soon I want to read them. So Universal Harvester is something I really want to read. John Darnielle is the lead singer of the Mountain Goats, which I adore, and I really enjoyed his other book, Wolf in White Van. Absolutely keeping that. So on down. So these two I am just super not sure about. I almost unhauled Masquerade last time, but I thought that I would maybe give it a chance. Like, am I actually going to read this? Probably not. Like, would I buy it right now? Probably not. Now, then we have Dan Brown, Digital Fortress. It's about code hacking and stuff. I just don't know if this is something I'm into. I read Angels and Demons in probably like 2010, and I really liked it then. Don't know if I would like it now, but I'm probably not going to read Digital Fortress. Now, a couple of these I'm just really not sure about. The Chemist, I would honestly like to know if it's good or not. I've heard lots of people talk about how The Host is better than Twilight. Not really a lot of people talking about The Chemist. So, if you've read this, tell me if it's good. Patron Saint of Plagues I probably won't read soon, but it was a thrift store find, and I just don't want to get rid of it for some reason. So, yeah. And then these two I got as gifts, and they're detective-y stories, and I just don't really get into detective-y stories that much. I might look at reviews of them and kind of go from there, so I'll put them in the maybe pile. Okay, then we have thrillers I have read. I'm pretty sure I read all or most of Silence of the Lambs. That was really interesting. Then we have romance. I'm not really a big romance reader, but I'm trying to read some this month to see if I'll actually like it, because I think some of the problem might have been that I was reading straight romance, which most of this is straight romance. There are two here that aren't. So this looks like a pretty standard, like, paranormal, kind of sexy romance, and I honestly think that one of my friends might have given this to me to read, so I might not throw it away because I may read it for them. We have some kind of thrift store finds that were more like classic, like Water for Elephants. I've heard things about the movie, which is why I bought the book. Is it worth reading? Anybody? I may put this in the maybe because, like, honestly, I don't know anything about it. I feel like this is, like, kind of built to be problematic. If it's old and about the circus, I feel like they're not going to get a lot of nuances. I'm going to look up reviews. We'll maybe pile it. A Walk to Remember, I remember watching and being sad about, and I'm not going to read it, honestly. Now, Under My Skin, I DNF'd earlier this year. I bought it because the main character is supposed to be either trans or non-binary and figures it out through the course of their story. There's also some discussion about their sexuality. I really do want to sit down and read the rest of it. But they talked about being in the office so much. They would talk about, like, going to meetings and being in the workplace and seeing people, and I just did not care. So I'm going to give it another chance, but it was kind of exhaustingly boring when I first tried, but I'll try it again. Then we have some things that are maybe a little sketchy. So we have this, which is like BDSM, erotica, and it's lesbian. There's a lot of controversy with this, and I honestly don't think that I really read too much into it. I just knew that it was gay when I first grabbed it, even though the back of the book, like, there's clearly shit going on. But I thought that it would be interesting to maybe read this alongside or with the 50 Shades series. Am I going to actually do that? I have no idea, but I'll keep it in the meantime. Then we get to 50 Shades, which I clearly have read. It is the only book of these that I have read. The pink notes are where they follow good consent. And the rest is like trash that happens. So I read this to analyze it and kind of for shits and giggles. I also have Gray, which is it's the first book, but from Christian's perspective. And I was going to read it and compare it. Honestly, it sounds like I'm setting myself up to hate everything, but I'm still gonna try it at some point eventually. Don't hold your breath. I won't get rid of it just yet. I got both of these. I think I got 50 Shades used and I got Gray for free from a friend, so don't worry, I didn't give her any money. Next, we have some historical fiction alongside my Hamilton knickknacks. This is all unread, again, in order of when I'm going to read it, like basically in order of importance. I don't think I'm going to unhaul any of these. The only one that I'm not really sure about is The Red Badge of Courage. It's like a Civil War book, but it's like a classic, so I was going to at least look into it. We'll see. From there, we've got general fiction. This is actually not supposed to be here. This is my recent haul. So again, kind of starting from here all the way to here, this is stuff that I haven't read yet in order of kind of priority. So like all of these, obviously I'm not going to unhaul. So let's start at the bottom here. War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. Am I actually going to read that? No. Like, would I buy it now? No. If I want to buy it, it's not going to be hard to do so. Look at how small the text is. Holy shit. No, I'm not going to read that. Okay, then we have American Dirt, which this was an ARC. I work at a bookstore, so the ARCs that you see came from that. My thoughts was, well, first I took it because it sounded interesting, and that was before people had talked about the controversy and like who the author was, so I was just going to read it. And I was still kind of planning on reading it after I read other ones that were actually own voices, so I may keep it. Face in the Mirror, I DNF'd earlier, but I do want to give a second chance eventually. Now these books are going to be maybes. I'm going to look up stuff. They're both Joyce Carol Oates, which I just recognized the name basically and bought the books like probably in like 2012 or something. So I'm going to look some stuff about them and see if they're actually stuff that I'm interested in. Then we have some classics. Then we have a couple of books that I got from the Introvert's Retreat box, which Introvert's Retreat prioritizes women authors, so it always sends you something written by a woman. Neither of these are books that I would probably buy, like, if I were at a bookstore. However, since I have them, I do want to try them out. It's not a genre or setting that I usually read. The same goes for this Copycat. This was also from that as well. And then the rest I'll probably keep. Monterey Bay was also one as well. After that, we go to fiction that I have read. Jane Austen, Nirvana, Ray Bradbury. I don't think there are any of these that I need to unhaul necessarily. Thinking about the Charles Dickens, because am I going to reread Charles Dickens? I did an entire Charles Dickens class because I was an English major, and apparently I hate myself. It wasn't actually all that bad. There were a couple that were good, but some of it is just so long. But I'll keep them still. And then we have more fiction down at the bottom again. This is stuff that I have read, kind of continuing on. This is my Holden Caulfield hat. It stays with Catcher in the Rye. From there, we get into young adult fiction. All of the stuff that's stacked up like this, I have not read yet, with the exception of Radio Silence, because it didn't fit that way. So, again, it's roughly in priority order. The priority of young adult, I think, shifts the most out of everything else. So we'll start at the bottom again. We have Anna and the French Kiss, 13 Little Blue Envelopes. I know that they're pretty standard romancy type of books. I got them probably in 2012 or whatever. Am I going to read them anytime? Oh, like, I have no idea. Honestly, I'm probably going to look up reviews for these, so these will go in the maybe pile. Hero type, I'm kind of in a similar way with. I just don't know. So these may go in the maybe pile. And then we have some classics that I want to read. I do want to read Let It Snow. Yeah, most of these like sounded kind of neat. Although I will say that I'm not particularly attached to a lot of these, so I probably should get rid of more. But that's what we've got. All these, like everything in the first pile, I like for sure 100% want to read and keep. The second pile, Radio Silence is a part of the first pile. I just bought that. The second pile, I'm not really sure. I think The Body of Christopher Reid is probably the most interesting sounding. I don't know. But we will put these three in the maybe. From there, we have young adult fiction that I have read, and I don't think I'm going to get rid of any of those. Speak. M.T. Anderson, I really, really like. He can write really well in a lot of different styles. Feed is like very futuristic, and it actually has the breakdown of language in it. We'll get into this a little bit later, but I also have the Octavian Nothing duology, which I read the first one forever ago and I really enjoyed it, but the way that he writes is just really cool. He's able to embody many different voices. In the bottom, we kind of continue young adult, which I don't think I'm going to get rid of any of this. Well, I say that. Stoner and Spaz, I probably read in like, I don't know, like, we'll say 2009. What's the date on that? It was put out in 2002, so 2009 is probably not too far apart. I'm gonna look at reviews, I think, to see if this is worth rereading. Perfect Chemistry was actually a romance that I ended up liking. A cheerleader and a gang member. Like, that just doesn't seem like something that I'd be that interested in, but I'll maybe it and see if it's worth rereading. If you'll notice on through here, I do have some various Fault in Our Stars stuff. I was super big into Tiff Yost and John Green. This is actually the audiobook. It was a limited kind of edition one where he was actually speaking. I really enjoyed it. I listened to this several times. I used to really love this book. Yeah, this one that you can't see here is an arc that I got from work of On the Come Up, which I didn't actually work when On the Come Up came out. I hadn't worked there for that long, but we still ended up having an arc of it. I guess they sent us another one. That was just a lucky find. Then we have Kidlit, which this one is opposite of young adult. All the ones in this stack I have read before. These ones I have not. Oh, The Pigman's Legacy, which I had to read The Pigman for a YA class that I took. Do I really care that much about the sequel? Not really. And then A Day No Pigs Will Die is kind of a classic that I wanted to read. The thing with some of these classics, though, especially with why, like, do I actually want to do this anymore? Like, I ended up reading or buying these around the time, or maybe like after I ended up taking that class. But really, I honestly don't know why I thought it would be a good idea to read a bunch of these classic ones, because let me tell you about some of the ones that I read. Honestly, Pigmen wasn't like bad necessarily. Up It Rode Slowly, it had some interesting stuff in it, but it was so fucking slow. Like, I honestly, you probably shouldn't judge your whole era of books based off of a couple, but I just don't really know if I'm that interested. So next we have kind of my series shelf. Honestly, I've got a lot of Harry Potter stuff that I really need to trim through, but I'm not going to film that because it's going to give me emotions as a non-binary Harry Potter fan. I've got feelings, but we're not going to talk about those today. We're going to talk about The Dark Crystal, which I'm really stoked to read. I read the graphic novels a while back, and then I immediately went and bought this. The graphic novels were prequels to the movie. If you don't know, The Dark Crystal is a Jim Henson movie, so it's like puppets, not like the Muppets, but kind of cool looking ones. Maybe cool's not the right word, but, anyways, I'm not 100% sure. I used to know whether these were prequels or sequels to the original one, but I'm really excited to read these. We have Lord of the Rings, which I feel like I should read. I've read The Hobbit and I've read the first one, but I just never got into it. This style of fantasy just kind of bores me. I'm still going to keep it though, because I'll probably read them at some point. I actually probably need to get new copies, because I just have, this one used to be nice, but I've had it since middle school. And then the other ones are thrift store finds. We have Octavian Nothing, which I actually probably would reread at some point. Hunger Games, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I've only read the first one, but I actually really enjoyed it. I need to read the rest. I only have the second one, but then we have Dark Secrets, which there was another book by Elizabeth Chandler. So I read these books, we're gonna say junior, senior year of high school, probably between 2009 and 2011. And I remember really liking them then. However, would I like them now? They're all paranormal romance. I honestly don't know if I would like to reread them or not, but I'll at least keep them for the moment for nostalgia's sake. And maybe look up some stuff about them and see if I really want to keep them or not. After that, we have Chris Colfer, which I originally bought these because I used to be super big into Glee, which I knew then that it was bad, and I know now that it's bad, so we won't talk about that. But Land of Stories is a middle grade. I do plan on reading it at some point. Guardians of Ga'Hoole was my shit. Want to talk about nostalgia? This is it. This motherfucker right here. Soren. This is basically like a dystopian, but like in the world, like everyone is owls. I really loved them. I'm keeping them. I might reread them. I'm not actually I technically did not catch up on the entire series. There's more than what I have, I believe. So who knows? Maybe I'll reread them. Next we have YA Vampire Romances. Twilight, which, I mean, I guess I'm keeping. Am I actually going to reread it? Probably not. Same thing goes for the House of Night series. It was I really loved them when I was a teenager, but honestly, the voice of, like, how it's written, I think I would pull my hair out. But we're still going to keep them. We have lots of anthologies. These, honestly, I'm going to see if the textbooks are worth anything, but if they're not, I'm just going to keep them. And then we have other textbooks, and this is an encyclopedia, but I think I'm going to just go ahead and keep all of those. We also have some Guinness World Records from 2003 and 4. Definitely keep those, because I used to really love them. I also had a Ripley's Believe It or Not book, but I don't know where that went, but I would look through them a whole lot. Then we have The Stand that has books that are part of series, but I don't have the whole series. The Uglies I've actually read. I'm pretty sure I've read at least most of the series. I used to have all of them, and I don't know where the rest went, but I'm probably going to keep it. You see, the thing with a lot of these is that I'm not totally sure, like, would I buy them again? If I asked myself that question, I would probably get rid of most of them. But I don't really want to get rid of all of them. I wish that I knew which ones were actually good. I think I'll keep this, and I'll keep Inkheart. I think I read most of that. But what about these? We've got more vampire shit. Am I actually gonna read this? It's like drama, a private school, vampires. Probably not. I'll look to see if there are like maybe some great series. But like I'm probably not gonna read the Blue Blood series. Beautiful Creatures. I know there's a movie of this. I got maybe halfway through it forever ago. Honestly, I'll probably keep it, but I'm probably not going to read it anytime soon. But that's fine. Same goes for Fallen. Like, I started to read it, but like, am I going to finish it? This looks like an Evanescence album cover. Is this an Evanescence album cover? What year was this published? It was published in 2009, so I guess that's fair. Paranormal romance, pretty heterosexual. Am I gonna read this? Honestly, with a lot of these, I just need to look up reviews for them because if they're trash, I'm not gonna read them. Divergent, I thought I would get into because I liked the Hunger Games series, but I never ended up reading it. I may at some point. This is a Sherilyn Kenyon book. Sherilyn Kenyon writes a lot of adult paranormal romance. And one of my best friends adores Sherilyn Kenyon. And I ended up getting this, I think, at a con with the intention of reading it. This is young adult. But it's a tie-in to the other series. I may read it eventually. Throne of Glass, I actually do plan on reading because Sarah J. Maas is huge, and I actually got this signed. I got to see her. One of my friends is super into her, and I was one of his only bookish friends in the area that he thought to ask. So we've got that, which is kind of cool, I guess. I was interested in the Sabriel series, kind of. I may still get to it. Funny story about this. I'm not totally sure what it's about. I intend to read it at some point. I think my dad got this for me when I asked for Wicked, but I was talking about this Wicked. So he just ended up getting me the wrong thing, which is fine, because this seemed like something that I would probably read at the time. Then we have the first Game of Thrones, which I don't know if I'm actually going to read, but I'll keep it with the intention of reading it. I read the first one of this in like 2012. I'm not 100% sure if I've read this one or not. Haven't read this. Will I actually read it? I have no idea. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo I heard a lot about, and I may read at some point. Now, 4 Past Midnight. This is another Stephen King book, but it was a series, so it wound up over here. I'm not going to read a Stephen King series. Y'all are just going to stay there. This is what I have now, but I will probably go through and look up reviews and stuff for some of these other books. I don't typically choose what I buy totally based off of reviews, but like with stuff like this, I just have no idea if it's worth reading, and it's older. So that's the plan. That is all for part 1 of my fiction collection. Stay tuned for part 2, where I look at my nonfiction and we get to see what my shelves look like at the end of all of this unhauling. If you notice any of these books, particularly the ones that I had in my series section that I was going over last, if you saw any that you have strong opinions about, definitely let me know. In general, if you saw any books on my shelves and you think that I should prioritize them and read them soon, also let me know about that. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye.